Okay, everybody, we're live. Thank you so much for joining us. Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. Central. A lot of things I want to talk about today, actually. Thank you so much for joining me. What's funny is that right before I went live, Tesla stock, it's like, okay, Farzad's going live. Why not? Let's go up a bunch. This is actually one of the topics I want to talk about today. I don't want any of this to be investment or financial advice, obviously, but there was a note that came out from Adam Jonas. Adam Jonas is from Morgan Stanley. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. I'm guessing a lot of you are that are watching this channel right now. He covers Tesla very closely, and it seems like there's a lot of notes and research coming out about Tesla, FSD, all that stuff that is making Tesla investors and Tesla fans really, really excited. And that's what I want to talk about today. None of this in this video is going to be investment or financial advice. After we're done with the live stream, I want you guys, if you're interested, to go to my website, farzad.fm. I have a link for that in the description in the comment section below. If you want to join us for a post live stream discussion, we'll be here for about 30 minutes. This is what the post says. Sawyer Merritt took an excerpt from the full research. I encourage you guys to not only follow Sawyer Merritt on X, but also go check out Adams's, is that grammatically correct? Research from Morgan Stanley. So he said, I'm calling it. Autonomous cars are solved. Do I mean 6 or 7 nines to the right of the decimal? No. Perfection? Never. But enough to pull the safety driver at scale in major metros. From our discussions with Tesla, it appears the only thing preventing Tesla from pulling the driver is its own abundance of caution. Our understanding is that there is no other explicit regulatory approval required to pull drivers in Texas. A passive optical-only AV system would seriously challenge the conventional thinking of many in the robotaxi community. Tesla truly believes that radar and LiDAR do not make its cars any safer. It is our long-standing opinion that if you solve autonomy for cars, you solve autonomy for many other form factors of AI-enabled robotics, aka aviation, marine, weapons, etc. Tesla will have around 8 million vehicles in the global park by end of year, basically the fleet, how many cars they have running around globally. 12% FSD penetration, paying monthly subs and upfront purchases, implies 1 million active paying users. If we were to apply the $99 per month subscription fee to all users, including upfront players for comparative equivalency, implies approximately $300 million of quarterly FSD revenue, or 1.2 billion annualized, which is basically that quarterly number times 4 quarters in a year. FSD revenue at a year-end exit rate, assuming an 85% margin, would imply approximately 1 billion in EBIT, so which is earnings before interest and taxes, accounting for 15 to 20% of total company EBIT. Highly profitable, highly recurring. There's a lot to unpack there. And I kind of want to go through each one of those, the things that Adam just went through and unpack that. But if you've been following this channel closely, you've been following not only my coverage of Tesla, but a bunch of other Tesla people that are out there in YouTube land, X land, or whatever. There's been this sort of chorus of people that are like, hey, Tesla's going to solve self-driving technology. Tesla's going to solve it in a very unique way, not using LiDAR, not using radar, not using sonar. And we've been banging our head against the wall in a lot of ways and sort of stabbing ourselves in the face, trying to be out here in front of the camera, trying to, let people know it's like, hey, we experienced the product firsthand. Tesla's not paying any of us, okay? And we're all just experiencing a technology that we're like, yo, this seems very obvious to the people that are really up close to it. It hasn't been perfect, far from it. Elon has missed a lot of timelines. We've been overly optimistic in a lot of different scenarios where we're like, hey, it looks like it's right there. And we just, we constantly have to go over these like hurdles that keep coming up that we didn't see coming, or we were just not smart enough to realize they were there. But now what I'm noticing, and y'all tell me in the comment section below if you agree with me, is that everyone else is starting to be like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, no. The lunatic fanboys, right? As I'm wearing this t-shirt. By the way, if you're interested, it's in my merch store. All the lunatics were right. And so being right implies a lot of things. It implies so many things. And that's sort of like Adams's sort of conclusion here is that there is no need for LiDAR. It's a huge deal. Why is that a huge deal? The approach that Tesla has taken for the last 7 or 8 years, call it. And those that follow Tesla closely know this sort of like the back of their hands. They probably know this better than other things they should know better, including myself. But the overarching premise here is that Tesla has spent the last 7 or 8 years investing a tremendous amount of money building a manufacturing process that would allow them to take an AI approach to solving autonomy. AI is a very big buzzword right now because of things like ChatGPT, OpenAI, Grok, right? Every business and their mother wants to put AI in their business. But funnily enough, Tesla has actually been doing this for a really long time. It's just been done in a very sneaky way that most people haven't realized, and that's through the full self-driving stack. The full self-driving stack is made up of cameras around the car, sort of like cameras like our phones, basically. They're put around the car, and then there's a AI brain in the car that tells the car how to drive. And that AI brain learned from billions of miles that Tesla owners have gathered that have been sent back to the headquarters, the mothership of Tesla, to process that data and then send it to the cars. And that's how the car has learned how to drive. That has allowed Tesla to build cars at sort of $30,000 to $35,000 per unit that can drive themselves compared to everybody else. And so what that allows Tesla to do is to have millions of cars on the road over the course of like what has it been like 5-6 years since they really fully ramped the Model 3, to basically just put self-driving cars everywhere that get better with software updates. Okay, and that's the big separation that Tesla's going to experience versus companies like Waymo. And now it seems like people like Adam Jonas have realized this. Okay, and other sort of investors and potential Wall Street people. So, yeah, it's fun. I mean, this is like one of those things where it's like you follow this story for so long and then people are like, okay, I guess this is kind of happening. I guess you guys were sort of going up the right tree, right? And again, this is not just a me thing, and I don't want to sort of like the Tesla. This is why the Tesla community is so special. Like I've noticed a lot of people like, you got your Palantir communities, you've got your Robinhood communities, like there's all these other creators in so many different spaces, Tesla and everywhere else, that sort of identify these stories early, they put themselves in front of people, and they're like, yo, this is happening. And then most people are like, you're an idiot. And then eventually, right? So now the question becomes, what's next? Right? The question becomes, what's next? And that's what's sort of very exciting about this story long term. And so what's next is sort of outlined in this post that I wrote. What was it? I wrote this post a couple of days ago, the 26th. Yeah. So basically, this is based off of all the different videos that I saw of FSD v14. So FSD v14 is the latest version that Tesla has put out there that has been... Thank you, Mimi. Love you, Mimi. Thank you. Very sweet of you. Long-time follower of the channel. Love you, Mimi. Thank you very much. Sort of these v14 videos that have been put out there by a bunch of different creators. This video is from Chuck Cook. And what the car does here that sort of prompted me to write this, and let me see, I may have to mute this. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and mute this. Is that his car approaches an intersection. Sorry guys, let me mute this here. So he approaches an intersection, and then it's a red light. There's a truck that's coming in that needs space because it's pretty big. The car automatically backs up to give it room. The truck passes by, and then the car goes back up to the light. Okay? So it's stuff like that the car could have really only learned in this situation, or the Tesla car has really learned just by looking at videos of people driving in their Teslas. And that's how the AI brain has figured out what to do, is by doing that. So these are the kinds of videos that prompted me to write this. And this was actually a day before Adams's note. Tesla FSD v14 generating banger after banger. It's now impossible to ignore that Tesla has positioned itself to be the only car manufacturer at scale, 2 million plus cars per year, that will be capable of unsupervised self-driving. So now, here are the follow-up questions. How much demand will this generate for Tesla vehicles with steering wheels and pedals, right? It's not just the part of the business that's going to be robotaxi, like your robotaxis in Austin that they launched in June, or your robotaxis in the Bay Area in California that they launched shortly thereafter, or the regions in Florida or Arizona that Tesla's going to be operating sort of a driverless, call it a driverless Uber network. It's also going to be the existing Model 3s and Ys that they're selling to regular people that are now going to get this software update that will, in very short time, become an unsupervised system where people don't have to pay attention. And so there's now this math equation that comes up that says, okay, do I want to pay the sort of maybe a little bit less for a RAV4 or a little bit less for a Camry or an Accord, or the same for a Lexus and an Infiniti, or a souped up RAV4 or a whatever. Come up with any, or even an Escalade, or even an Audi A4 or a Mercedes E-Class. Do I want to pay for those cars where I have to pay for gas, I have to pay for maintenance, I have to pay for oil changes, right? And then it's a gas car, so it takes a little bit longer to get going. There's a delay of hitting the throttle and the car goes. It has the tech of like 1944 in the car, especially compared to like something like a Tesla or other like Chinese automakers are really good at technology, for example. Do I want to pay for that, or do I want to pay for a Tesla that can also drive itself and I don't have to pay attention? And it costs about the same. Now the unsupervised software is going to be more. I think than the $99 they're charging right now for the supervised version, because right now you have to pay attention. But the system is so capable that a lot of drivers are saying, why am I could have been in my back seat, right, this whole time. Obviously, you shouldn't be doing that because it's not perfect. But that's sort of the common thread is like, hey, this software is really, really good. Why pay for those cars when I can pay for a car that can do that, right? So that's what's interesting about this. And so if that's the case, are we going to see more people buying Teslas, or are we not going to see more people buying Teslas, right? Like, one would think that if you can pay for a car that doesn't have to drive, that you don't have to drive, you basically have a private chauffeur on tap, and that car could cost the same as owning any other car in that same exact class, So Model 3 starts at $37,000. Do you want to buy a $37,000 car that can drive itself where you don't have to pay attention, or would you rather buy a $40,000 gas car that you have to drive? That should generate something, I think. I don't know. You tell me in the comment sections below. We'll do a little bit Q&A here in a little bit. When will Tesla achieve the safety level required to operate 80% of metro traffic, sort of metro being the metropolitan areas of cities, as robotaxi in the United States, right? So Tesla has a capability, as Adam noted in his note. It's out of abundance of caution. The people that have been following the story closely know this and sort of are aware of this. So if that's the case, when is Tesla going to be like, okay, good enough? V14 version 14.3 or whatever. They're currently 14.1.4. Version 14.3, we've smoothed out all the crazy little nuances of it not being super comfortable in some situations. The safety profile's there. It's going to be way safer than a human. Let's assume that's the case. Okay, cool. Now we're ready to go on Austin full bore. We're ready to go in Orlando full bore, Miami full bore, LA full bore, SF full bore, Phoenix, New York City, right? You start taking off the list, and then you sort of rank order your top 20% larger cities, and then you start going into those metro areas that allow self-driving technology, right? When is Tesla going to decide to do that? Because it seems like they have the technology to do it. They just need the numbers to prove it. They need enough time for the numbers to tell them it's good to go, instead of just us intuitively thinking that's going to be the case, because of the abundance of evidence we have, not just from videos, but people actually driving their own cars. And there's actually a post I want to show you that highlights some of the negatives of the current version, but the conclusion is still the same. I'll little teaser. I'll show you what I mean in a second. When will Tesla achieve the above for global markets, right? So not just in the United States, like your Phoenix and your LAs and your SFs, but how about your Berlins? How about your Londons? How about your Shanghais, right? You start thinking about the system that Tesla has developed, because it's AI based, it learns like a human. So the simplest way to think about this is when you are a United States driver and you go overseas, let's say when we took a trip to Ireland like 3-4 years ago, 2 years, 3 years, 2 years, 20, I forget exactly. Time's flying now with a kid, so I don't even know what year it is half the time. So not too long ago, we went to Ireland, and Ireland has very different traffic laws versus the United States. You have to drive on the other side of the road. The steering wheel's on the other side of the car, and we had a stick car, so I had to shift with my left hand, which was trippy as hell. Although The gear selector is the same. First is still out, in the first position, first gear, and then it's still like the accelerator is still the right, Anyway, overcomplicating this. Different traffic laws in Ireland, same brain. I learned how to drive in the US. I learned how to drive in Ireland within a couple hours. I was comfortable with the roads, okay? The AI brain works the same way. Very, very similar way. And so if it has learned how to drive, it can use context clues on the road to pull off maneuvers that are appropriate for that region. And so if it can do 80% of metro areas in the United States, with enough time and enough training, it will be able to do 80% of the metro areas in Europe, in Asia, in South America, in Africa. With enough time and enough data, it should be able to do that. So when is that going to happen? When is that going to happen? And then number 4, regardless if Tesla can achieve the technical feat or not, when will regulators approve this in each market? And that's sort of, oops, I meant to hit this one. Ready? There we go. That is the biggest hang up for this thing long term, is that Tesla can be technically capable as much as it wants, and it can show the data as much as it wants. But when will regulators say, yes, we are going to let you do this, right? From a plus sign, from a positive perspective, the reason why regulators will want to do this is, from my perspective, pretty obvious. You're going to vastly reduce deaths on the road. These systems cannot get distracted. They're not going to get road rage, and they're not going to get drunk. They're not going to get high, and they're always paying attention 24/7. Those cameras don't turn off. You're always looking at what's going on. And so these systems will be significantly safer than a human, and they will react significantly quicker, and they'll make significantly better decisions, and they will not drive with emotion. They will drive with logic. A lot of the issues that we have on the road is people just literally just lose their shit, and then something happens on the road, and then we have an accident, right? Or they're just on their phone, and then I was like, oh crap, literally just got rear-ended like 2 weeks ago in my Cybertruck because I was stopped on a road. I was literally stopped at a red light, and I just get rear-ended. How's that even possible? I was just stopped at a red light, and I just get rear-ended. Poor guy, his Prius got pretty beat up. I just have to change the trailer hitch cover on mine. It's like $35 for a part. Still he needs to be paying attention. But that doesn't happen with self-driving cars because self-driving cars just don't get distracted, right? So regulators will be, obviously, they'll have a giant forcing function to adopt this technology from a civilizational wellness perspective. Just like, hey, let's prevent people from getting injured and dying. The other one is, with self-driving cars, you're going to massively lower the cost of transportation because you no longer have to pay for a driver. That opens an entire different can of worms, though, because it's going to put drivers out of work. But that's the huge negative sign that we have to talk through, and we have to address that because it is going to be, from my perspective, I think it's going to be pretty impactful, especially as the technology gets better and it gets adopted. But the plus sign, I keep saying plus sign. The plus sign, my kid has an orange plus sign toy that he loves. It's the orange plus sign, that's what I keep. But on the plus side, stop getting distracted. On the plus side, it's going to dramatically lower the cost of transportation, which is going to make it easier to transport goods, and it's going to be easier and cheaper to transport people. So you open up massive industries that could have potentially never existed by opening the door to very cheap transportation. And the example I like to use is like, okay, how many more public events are we going to have? Like, rock concerts, whatever, sporting events, festivals, new things that appear in the physical world when going from a suburb to downtown not only costs less than you owning a car, because it's going to be much cheaper than somebody paying a driver to go or your time, but you don't have to park. There's no one else in there with you in the car, so it's a totally private experience. You can do whatever you want in that car, that transportation unit. So what is that going to do to the economy? So regulators are going to look at that and be like, wow, there's a pretty, it's not even a Tesla thing. This is just self-driving technology. Tesla just has happened to solve self-driving technology at scale. Okay, that becomes a conversation. So on the negatives, you guys, let's be fair. Okay. This is Matt Smith. Matt Smith, one of the most beautiful people I've ever met. He's just a very kind soul, very smart guy. He is very ugly, unfortunately. Those that follow the channel know this. But now I do have to say nice things about him because the Railionaire does sponsor this channel. So these guys are literally... Matt, the only way Matt could get a compliment from me is by paying me. I love you, Matt. My first experience with FSD V14 was a bit underwhelming. Perhaps my expectations were too high, but there were several small annoyances that detracted from the overall experience. The bad. And then now Matt lives in Michigan. I'm going to highlight this. He lives in Michigan. Why anybody would live in Michigan, but he lives in Michigan. Backing out of my garage driveway was still too slow and jerky. Not sure that there was any improvement from version 13. I was turning left out of my neighborhood onto a busy road during rush hour. There was a perfect gap right when I got to the stop sign, but it was extremely slow in creeping past the stop sign such that it missed the gap and had to wait at least an extra minute. It also blocked the path for a car behind me, which was turning right and then missed another gap a while later. Several instances of brake feathering detracted from comfort. I tried this drive-through test and it would not pull up following other cars and eventually just tried to skip the entire line after I had ordered and pull away from the restaurant. It tried to pull into the wrong driveways twice when I put in an address. The good. Highways were flawless. The merging speed control and passing other vehicles was markedly improved. It pulled over beautifully for a fire truck coming from the opposite direction with its sirens on. It pulled into my driveway, which no other version has ever done. It did not park in a great spot, but it was a minor improvement. Overall, it was definitely an improvement, and most crucially, and this is the thing that is very important to take away here, there were no safety-related issues, but I was surprised at how many tiny issues I encountered on such a short drive. As ever, the most important metric from here is pace of improvement. This is the most important, and props to Matt for highlighting this. There were no safety-related issues. Why is this such a big deal? This is what's going to allow this technology to be approved by regulators. The only way this gets approved by regulators is if the system never gets itself in a situation where it does something that may harm the people in the car or the people on the road. All the other stuff can be fixed. And Tesla has shown over time, and I think anybody who just looks at this objectively, just without any bias whatsoever, I'm obviously going to be biased, but if you remove that layer completely, every single person in good faith will come out and say, yes, Tesla has shown an ability, a very impressive ability to solve for the little things that happen on the road using their AI-based system. Okay? That is an objective fact. And so if the safety profile can be retained to where it's extremely safe, all the other issues will just go away over time. And so the question becomes, as those issues go away, will that be enough for regular people to adopt the technology that otherwise wouldn't have because they're like, it's doing something weird. I don't want to get behind the steering wheel and pedal. It's annoying. It's annoying, right? That's the next threshold that Tesla has to go through. It's like, it's not even so much the safety, it's the comfort. It's the don't do stupid stuff on the road. Like, I get it. It's you're not putting me in danger, but like, just go. Like, why'd you do that, right? Like, it's anxiety inducing if you're behind the steering wheel and pedal of your car and your car's doing something stupid and you didn't do that thing. It's a very unpleasant experience. And so that's what Tesla has to solve for. And that will obviously also help the robotaxi network tremendously, because then you'll have a product that's significantly a better experience than your competing Waymos, because Waymo has used an approach that makes it more robotic. So you're going to have like a little bit more jerkiness. It's still a phenomenal product, but it's a very low scale. And it's also a little jerky in spots. Whereas Tesla can offer a much more, it's a much more luxurious experience. And for those that have experienced both FSD and Waymo, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's go ahead and do some Q&A. And we'll transition over to our members only Q&A here in a few minutes. Let me go ahead and I just saw this. Shervin, my fellow Persian brother, I'm going to assume, as far as it talks to stock pumps. And should we just do these live streams every day, you guys? What do you think? What do you think? All right, let's do some Q&A. Let me take a sip of this first. I talk a lot. And I am a little rusty on these live streams, so thank you very much for bearing with me. I always get nervous before I go live now. I didn't used to get nervous before, now I get nervous because I haven't done these in so long. You know, it's like, ugh, I got to practice, you guys. I got to practice. Okay, let's see. You will look back a few years from now and say, I remember when I thought $500 a share was high from Blaine. Of course, and nothing in this, I don't want anything in this discussion to be investment or financial advice, but I think that's the overarching premise behind this story is that if you can do robotaxi, self-driving cars, unsupervised self-driving cars at scale in the millions of units per year, you have a very unique competitive advantage that nobody else can catch up with because nobody else has done the approach you have taken, which is collect billions of miles of data, fed it into an AI brain that's going to help you generalize solving for self-driving at scale with cars that cost less than $30,000 to build. And then that same technology can be used for the human or robot, more importantly, because that's the foundation. That's also, instead of using steering wheels and pedals, you use arms and legs, right? That's the selling point. Aaron, it would be odd if you didn't talk a lot. This is fair. You know what? Let's switch it up. I'm just going to sit here. Not as fun. Thank you. No-brainer, Tesla FSD is 10 times safer than every other autonomous vehicle manufacturers out there, from Dave. Well, I mean, I think intuitively one can say that, because if you look at other, let's put Waymo aside. Waymo is a very unique sort of product, and they deserve a lot of props for paving the way for companies like Tesla to come in and be part of the self-driving world, right? Waymo took the risk. They brute force the solution, and they are operating in multiple places without a person in the car, which is amazing. It's amazing. All the other automakers have their own ADAS systems that, for some reason, media publications, special legacy media publications, are not nearly as objective about their performance versus Tesla's. They seem to be a lot more forgiving about their limitations and a lot more critical of Tesla, but Tesla's solution is obviously way better than theirs, but for some reason that doesn't get coverage. But it is what it is. We'll see. At what point will Tesla split? I don't know. Might go 56. No idea. When the stock price gets really high, if the stock price gets really high, if you're obviously a Tesla bull, you're going to think it's going to be high. Last time it split, it was like $1,000 a share. Correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong. Is licensing FSD software the only option left? How do you envision this in the future? Thank you, Max, for the question. Yeah, I think I do think that for legacy automakers in the U.S., it's like GM and Ford and Stellantis. Stellantis just came out and said Tesla's going to go bankrupt in 10 years. What a dumb thing to say, but we'll set that aside. They're going to have to license FSD. The only other thing that could happen is China develops their own version of FSD, because they're extremely talented there. I don't see that happening yet. I don't think they have the technical. China's really good. They're phenomenal emulators and they're phenomenal optimizers, but they're not. But the United States, and I'm not saying they're not good inventors, but the United States are very obviously the best inventors in the world. And Elon Musk is like one of the greatest inventors in the greatest inventor country in the world, right? But China could take the learnings from the US and be like, we're going to do our own thing. Kind of like how they've open sourced the LLMs you've seen with like DeepSeek and stuff, with like ChatGPT and whatnot. They could do the same thing with FSD. But the beauty of what Tesla has done is that they've created a very vertical sort of solution to self-driving, where it's the car, the chip, and the software that come together to deliver the product that they have. Like what they have now is impossible without vertically integrating the manufacturing of the vehicle and the design, the manufacturing and the design of the chip, and the design and the building of the neural net process and sort of the AI process that they've done for all those 3D things to play together nice. It's like it takes billions of dollars and years of expertise, really decades of expertise, and a really maniacal leader to make that happen. We'll see. You have to keep your eyes open for competition, obviously. I mean, in my opinion, the TAM for this, the total addressable market, is so large, and Tesla has such a lead from where I sit, that the long-term, not financial investment advice, Tesla will be a winner, but there will be room for others if they're willing to make the investments that Tesla has made or license Tesla's technology. There's 1.4, something like that, billion cars on the road. There are so many miles, and they're only going to grow as developed nations develop and as transportation gets cheaper. This is like a gigantic pie. And so the question becomes, is Tesla going to have 80% of it, or are they going to have 50% of it? Or are they going to have 20% of it, right? Regardless of what that number is, if you fast forward 20 years from now, it's a gigantic pie. It's a gigantic piece of the pie. That's how I think about it. Okay. Let's go ahead and transition to the private chat, the private live stream. If you are interested, go ahead and visit me on this link right here, farzad.fm. That's my exclusive website. Let me pull it up. I'm going to go over there now and chat with my peeps. You got a bunch of exclusive content as well, exclusive videos, exclusive newsletter, a digest. What else do I have? I have a bunch of stuff in here. A Discord, models, research, all kinds of stuff. So come and join me there, and I'll see you next week for our weekly live stream. Thank you so much. Love you guys. Bye.